A lot of times Christians believe fasting is just staying away from food, drink and all that, but trust me, fasting is much more. In this video I'll be telling you everything you need to know about fasting. Stay tuned and watch to the end. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're seeing my face for the first time, my name is Queen, and today I'll be talking about the importance of fasting and prayer. So what is fasting? Fasting is basically giving up certain distractions in your life, including food, in order to seek God and spend time with Him for a particular time or a specific period of time. So in fasting, you need to seek God. Fasting is not just staying hungry and just waiting till the day is over. Fasting is seeking God, and one thing, you cannot fast without praying. If you are not seeking God when you're fasting, it means you're not fasting. Another thing you should know about fasting is that fasting is a biblical way of telling God that you're humble. Fasting shows God that you're humble. I'm just going to read from Psalm 35 from verse 13, NIV version. It says, "Yet when they were ill, I put on sackcloth and humbled myself with fasting when my prayers returned to me unanswered." So this person prayed before. I think it's David. He prayed before and he prayed before and the prayers was not answered. So he went back to God and fasted. So when God saw that, God saw a humble spirit. The next thing about fasting is that fasting is an act of devotion to God. It's an act of devotion to God. Let's read from Matthew chapter 6 from verse 17 to 18. Matthew chapter 6 from verse 17 to 18. It says, "But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thy head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto the Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." So fasting is a devotion to God. So I haven't talked about the meaning of fasting. Why should a believer fast? Number one reason a believer should fast is because fasting brings about revival. 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14, let's quickly read that. It said, "If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and will heal their land." So fasting and prayer brings about revival. It is not possible to have revival without fasting and prayer. I don't know, maybe you're a magician, or maybe that person is a magician and there's a way you can do it, but to the best of my understanding, you cannot bring about a life-changing revival without fasting and prayer. So it is very important. If you read accounts of people like Catherine Kuma, Amy Sample, John Knox, you will find that they were revivalists and they lived a life of fasting and prayer. They lived a life of consecration. They live a life of fasting. They live a life of prayer. You should have a day in a week where you fast, where you seek God, where you just set aside those distractions and you just fast and you just pray and you just seek the face of God. You should have a day in a week where you do that. So fasting should be a lifestyle. It should not just be something that you do once in a while. If you want to be serious as a believer, if you want to see the power of God work in your life as a believer, you need to give yourself more often to fasting and prayer. I was listening to one of the fathers in the faith, and he said something. He said that whenever he notices he's going down in his spirit, in the moment he notices his Christian life is coming down, he puts himself on a 14 days prayer and fasting, and that 14 days he prays every 3 hours. And I was like, wow. And he said that the moment he finishes that 14 days, he sees himself coming back. He sees himself being on fire again. So you cannot say you're a believer, you want to carry God's fire, you want to be set on fire, and you don't fast and pray. The moment you notice you're down in your spirit, you're down in your prayer life, you're down in your study life, you are even down in your consecration, it's the time for fast. It is the time to fast. It is the time to seek God. Separate yourself from every other thing and seek God in the place of prayer and fasting. The second reason a believer should fast is because fasting activates those spiritual gifts that are lying dormant in you. Those spiritual gifts that God has deposited in you, but you don't really know about it because your spirit is not activated through prayer, through fasting, through studying the word. Corinthians 12 from verse 8 to 10 talks about the different spiritual gifts that God has deposited inside of you, and you need to activate them in the place of prayer and fasting. If you want to see the power of God mighty in your life, you want to see the power of God made manifest in your life, then you need to be a person of prayer. You need to be a person of fasting. The Bible says, out of your belly shall flows rivers of living water. It will not just happen. It will only happen when you give yourself more to fasting. The third reason you should fast is that fasting brings about heavenly intervention. Fasting brings about supernatural intervention. The angels are set assignment for your sake when you fast. And fasting creates an atmosphere for God to intervene in your life. Fasting creates an atmosphere for God to show up in your life. Let's read Esther chapter 4 from verse 16. See that Haman was actually trying to set Mordecai up in order to kill him. But Esther decided that if she perish, she will perish. Okay, so let's read that. Esther 4:16 says, "Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days." So this is a 3 days fasting that Esther was carrying out here. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. If I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way, and did according that Esther had commanded him. So Esther told Mordecai that he should tell the other people, the other Jews, that they should fast for 3 days. Fast for 3 days, seek the face of God. Let's see what happened in Esther 5. Esther 5 verse 1 says, "Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in a royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in his court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? It shall be even given in the half of the kingdom." This is a kind of thing that if you are to enter that place when the king has not specifically requested, is death on the go. And that was why she said, "If I perish, I perish." But see what fasting and prayer did. After she fasted and prayed for 3 days, she went into that same place that nobody is supposed to go to, and even touched the king's scepter. So that is what heavenly intervention. And the king was even asking her, "What is your request?" That is what heaven intervention does. Let's read Acts 10, 1-5. Acts 10 from verse 1 says, "There was a man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius, and when he looked on him, he was afraid, and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thy alms are come up to a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. This is heavenly intervention. He prayed and fasted, and an angel came forth for him. An angel came forth. So he fasted and prayed, and divine intervention came. So that thing you have been believing God for, that thing you have been wanting God to do for you, if only you can fast, if only you can take out time and fast and pray about that thing, I am sure God will answer. I'm sure heavenly intervention will come for your sake.